everyone, welcome back. And we are looking at anxiety, and this is session 2. I'm so excited. First off, always remember that I'm a quantum life and a quantum soul consultant. I'm not a medically trained doctor. Should you display any worrying symptoms, please visit a doctor to assist you. This podcast is not for diagnosis or for treatment. Okay, let's get started. Let's dive right in. As always, we'll start with a recap. So what we looked at yesterday or the previous time was anxiety is a response, which means it's an emotional response to stress or an environment or overwhelm or finances. So anxiety is a response, okay? It is caused by stress, environment, lifestyle, our epigenetic markers, etc. So let's get right into it. So if anxiety is a response to what is it a response, or how does this response work? So first of all, it's your fight, flight, and freeze reaction. So whenever, let's say you turn a corner and all of a sudden there's a person, okay, you get a fright. So what happens is your amygdala sends a signal through to your pituitary gland, and that then sends to the hypothalamus to say to the adrenal glands, hey, please, will you secrete cortisol and adrenaline. It then secretes the cortisol and the adrenaline. It bypasses all of your unessential body functions like digestion. Your body in that moment wants maximum oxygen to go to your muscles. And so what happens is your breathing quickens so that you get more oxygen in. Your heart starts pumping quickly, all of the blood to your muscles, so that if you need to fight, or if you need to run away, then you can do it. You have the necessary oxygen in your muscles to do so. And then obviously also to freeze. So what happens is if you are for a long period of time exposed to stress, so not turning a corner, but maybe having financial issues, or maybe going through a divorce, or really struggling at school, being bullied, or you are maybe just struggling socially, you're moving to a new place, you know no one, you have no support system, then you'll have a prolonged period of the fight, flight, and freeze reaction. When this happens and you don't deal with it, you don't process it, you don't help your body to cope with this, what will happen is what we call the amygdala hijack, which literally means that your amygdala will hijack your brain. So if I turn the corner and there's someone there and I get a fright, my frontal cortex, my prefrontal cortex will tell my amygdala, no, shush, man, we know this person. Don't worry, we are safe. Okay, so, and then your body will immediately calm down and you're like, okay, I know this person, I don't need to stress. But what happens if your amygdala is hijacked is you are unable to determine really if something is a threat or not a threat, because the signals from the amygdala goes through and it overrides the prefrontal cortex's communication. So even if other people say to you, like, this is not really something you should stress or worry about, you're unable to calm yourself because your prefrontal cortex is not getting its signals through. Another thing that will happen is you will constantly be on a cortisol high. You'll constantly feel a bit jittery. Someone will just move quickly next to you and you'll get a jolt or you'll get a fright. Okay, so these are all signs that the amygdala has unfortunately been hijacked, and then you need to do something about it. Another thing is these are your 3 responses, your fight, flight, and freeze response, and they've recently found out that fawn is another response that people have. They start going into pleasing other people. We know what flight means is when people run away from the problem. So instead of fixing the problem, they start doing the dishes, they start cleaning the house, they would rather do work, they switch their focus. So instead of dealing with the anxiety, they just replace it with something else. Or they overthink. Anxiety, panic, OCD, that's again the perfectionism, difficulty sitting still. People that tend to go into their fight reactions will have anger outbursts and they cannot control things, so they get angry or they'll bully other people. A lot of narcissistic behaviors come from people that were abused as children. And so what actually happens is they, in order to protect themselves against the abuse, they create these narcissistic traits to fight back what has been done to them. And then you'll get explosive behavior. Everything will, one moment, be fine and calm, and the next moment you'll just have these outbursts, and you'll be like, this really, it isn't necessary to have this reaction. Or a freeze reaction is when people find it difficult to make decisions, so they become indecisive or unsure. They're stuck. They dissociate, as if the trauma never happened, as if the thing that's going wrong is not real. You often see this where people don't have money, they're stressing about money, but to help them cope with it, they spend more money. And then people get numb or isolated. And then fawn is when people become people pleasers. So the thing that's causing your reaction just sends you into overdrive. So let's say you are having difficulties in a relationship. So instead of confronting the problems, you just start doing everything right, and you overcompensate for any part of guilt that you might have, and you try and overcompensate. People in this area usually have a lack of identity. They don't know who they are. They don't have any boundaries. They cannot say no. They cannot fight. They cannot stand up for themselves. They cannot tell you, listen, actually, I don't like it when you say this, or actually, you've just hurt my feelings. They cannot sort things out, and they can also not admit. When you usually confront them, they cannot admit that the thing that you're confronting them about is bothering them. And they also become codependent. They usually will have one person, and they do everything with that person. They sort of stuck with that person. They go everywhere. They follow that person around. Okay, and so this is the fight, flight, and freeze reaction that you will get out of people. So some people will, if it's going bad with them, they'll fight with you, because that's the reaction that the body has. So if the amygdala has been hijacked, you'll be constantly fighting in your relationship. Okay, so a prolonged exposure to this response, I thought this was such a good picture of the panic gripping you by the neck. It really becomes a daily battle to breathe, to remain calm, to cope. And it's as if the panic comes in moments, and it just presses all of the air out of you. And that's when people usually get panic attacks. Okay, so how does anxiety affect the body? I mentioned earlier that it does bypass the digestive system, but it does a lot more than that. So in the brain, it creates a difficulty for concentrating, anxiety, depression, irritability, mood swings, and brain fog. So certain times of the day when you become overwhelmed, you get panic, you don't know what to do. It's as if you're paralyzed. The cardiovascular system obviously is affected because of the high heart rate constantly that you'll have. So palpitations, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, increased risk for heart attacks or strokes. Your joints and your muscle will have increased inflammation and tension, aches, pains, muscle. Remember when I spoke about the tightness. Your immune system. So just think logically about this. If you are in a survival situation, the body's last worry is to fight off the bug that just entered through your nose, for example. It would want you to run away from the situation, and then the body can worry about that. So if you have this prolonged anxious reaction or worrying reaction, then what will happen is your immune system is bypassed. So you have decreased immune functions. And so we see often that people get sick continually. They become ill, they struggle to recover. Their immune defenses are poor. So they only start fighting the bug when it's a bit actually too late. Your skin, you'll have hair loss, brittle nails, dry skin, acne. Your gut is affected. I think one of the most things that gets affected is the gut, because you'll have nutrient absorption, you'll have diarrhea, constipation, indigestion, bloating, pain and discomfort. So it doesn't matter what you eat, the gut actually just never becomes happy. And then the reproductive system, of course, whenever that's again, the body's last worry is if you can reproduce, if you are in a situation for survival. Okay, and so here are the long and short-term effects of stress on the body. So feeling worried, nervous, unable to switch off, meaning you're struggling to sleep. Your heart beats quicker, you breathe quicker, you have tummy issues, your hormones are all over the place. You become sensitive, your skin becomes sensitive, your skin becomes oily because of all of the sweat and everything. You sweat out everything, your muscles tense up, headaches, migraines. If you are struggling with migraines, that is your body's way of telling you that you actually have subconscious anxiety. If you're not aware of it, it's subconscious anxiety. Mental health problems, again, depression is a big, big, big sign of anxiety. Heart problems, trouble breathing, asthma, skin irritations, increased risks to type 2 diabetes, and fertility problems. So in the body, over a long period of time, the body is in a consistent state of fight, flight, and freeze. So what happens is this consistent state rises the cortisol levels of the body, and they remain high the whole time, even after you are no longer in the survival situation. Let's say you are no longer struggling with your finances. The amygdala has already been hijacked, which means that your body is unable to really say whether something is a fight, flight, and freeze reaction, whether it's just a normal reaction or a normal event, that you shouldn't be reacting like this. And so what it causes is what they call in psychology is free floating anxiety, which means it flows the whole time, anxious the whole time. And so if you want some resources for free floating anxiety, there are amazing people online. I follow this person on Instagram. The handle is @theanxietyhealer, and you can have a look there. They really have some nice ideas. Okay, thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope that you have a lovely day, and then I will see you next time.